County, West Virginia League of Women Voters. Behind the camera is Susan Pipes, who is the publicity chair of our local chapter. And with us today, our hostess is Sarah Huston, who is a curator of the Jefferson County Museum. We are here to hear about and learn about the 19th Amendment anniversary, 100th anniversary celebration, and how Sarah put it together, and the backdrop and some information from her. So I'll turn it over to Sarah here.
Yes. So thank you. Like she was saying, this is our exhibit on the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage. We wanted to focus on the national movement, but also on the local with the state of West Virginia, as well as Jefferson County. Now, when we were putting this together, we realized that unfortunately we don't have very many physical artifacts related to women's suffrage. But we thought that this was a very important piece of history and an important story to be told, so we wanted to put together something that highlighted that. Now starting here, this is our exhibit card, or text card about the exhibit, and this really puts it in context of the national movement, talking about how this really grew into this complex, contentious, and at times controversial political movement and crusade taken on by women. What's notable about this text card actually though is the photograph that you can see behind the title card here. This is actually taken in Shepherdstown. This was in 1916. This shows some women during a suffrage parade in Shepherdstown. And we wanted to include this in the title card to show how this was important at this individual level and how women came together and grouped together at local level that then would transform into a state level and a national level as well. Now, moving on into the case itself, like I said, we didn't have much in our collection in terms of actual physical artifacts related to the suffrage movement, but we did have a collection of telegrams. Now you can see copies of the telegrams that line the bottom of the case and the top row here. Now, these were sent in to Milton Burr. Milton Burr was a Charlestown businessman, and he was also the representative of Jefferson County in the West Virginia Senate. Now, individuals throughout the county as well as throughout the country sent in telegrams to him in support or against the amendment, asking him to vote in the legislation. Now, the amendment was passed in 1919 by Congress, but then it was sent to states to be ratified. So it was in February and March of 1920 that these telegrams were sent to Burr. You can see we've divided and put up a few of them. We've picked a few, but the ones in purple, they show those in support of the amendment. And like I said, one of which was President Woodrow Wilson. You can see we put a text card here and a little bit of a quote taken where he says, "May I not urge upon you the importance to the whole country of the prompt ratification of the suffrage amendment." Now, as well, we have some more down here. One is from a U.S. Senator from Wyoming to again show you how far this movement spread and how important this issue was. And the other one from here in the front shows some women from Shepherdstown, actually the same woman that is seen in this picture here, Serena Dandridge, who are again urging him to support the amendment and to vote for it. Now conversely, there were those against the amendment. We have two of which shown here, one from a man from West Virginia and one from Philadelphia, or excuse me, from Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. And the text card here with a quote we pulled was, "The country needs more men like you," in reference to Burr, "to rescue it from prevailing hysteria now being supported by political puppets seeking to control public affairs." So as you can see, there are those that were against this amendment, very verbally so, and sent in the telegrams to Burr. And actually Burr would end up voting against the amendment, but it still passed narrowly by 15-14 vote, making it approved by West Virginia. So what we wanted to do is continue and show this support for and against the amendment in these posters that you can see above, where you can see some propaganda for pro-suffrage and against suffrage. And again, we wanted to include these because though we didn't have anything in our collection, it really shows how this was an everyday movement and how it affected everyone's lives. You can see it in the buttons, you can see it in posters, stamps even, flags, banners, even sheet music that were either support for or against the amendment. And like I said, though we don't have it, it's really important to show that individual touch and how it affected everyone. Now, the last thing I want to point out is a text card that you can see above the case that talks about African American women and the amendment. Now, unfortunately, as is the case with a lot of the exhibits in the museum, we didn't have anything physical, any artifacts related to Black women and the suffrage amendment, or excuse me, the suffrage movement. But we knew that that was important to highlight this piece of history, so we wanted to include a little bit of a background through our research and what we had found. So for African American women, a lot of them were barred from the white-led suffrage movements. They weren't allowed to go to meetings, they weren't allowed to attend rallies, things like that. So for Black women, they had to form their own political movements. They had to form their own political societies using African American-led institutions like churches, like anti-slavery societies, like women's societies, things like that. So for African American women, it really shows how this was a two-pronged movement. There was that fight for gender equality, but there was also the fight for racial equality as well. And even when the amendment would be passed, a lot of African American women were still barred from voting. In the South in particular, a lot of laws were put into effect to prevent Black women and Black men from voting. And it wouldn't be until the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that African American women would finally be granted what had been first promised to them in the 19th Amendment, and they would have the right to vote. So, like I said, this is just a short overview of our exhibit case here. Though we didn't have much in our collection related to the movement, we tried to fulfill it as much as we could with research and things like that to show the different facets of the movement and how important it was at this local level, but also on the national scale.
It's great work, Sarah. I have one question for you about this last piece you've talked about. You have a committee now at the Jefferson County Museum, and you mentioned that you may be updating this part of this exhibit with some additional information and how the committee is informing some of your exhibits and how you work with them.
Yes, correct. So we have an African American Advisory Committee that we've had for maybe about a year or so now, a little bit more than that. And they really help us when we're in this early exhibit process and really throughout the whole process in general. We meet with them to discuss exhibits, to get their input about what they think we should add to make sure that we're including, a rich story. And for this one in particular, when we first reached out, we didn't get much in terms of feedback about what to add. However, in actually just the previous few weeks, one of the members informed us about a woman named Coralie Franklin Cook. She was born in Virginia, but actually went to Storer College here in Harper's Ferry. That was a college for African American individuals to go to for higher education. And she taught there then for 10 years or so, but she was a prominent and influential African American public speaker and activist. And so she was very much involved in the suffrage movement. And though she was disillusioned by these white-led institutions and white-led movement members who may not have included all voices in the movement, she really strove to make sure that Black voices and Black struggles were really represented in the movement. So it's our hope that in the next few weeks we'll be able to write a text card and include a photograph to include with this case so that you can really show that personal connection to the movement with an actual individual as opposed to just the overview that we've provided here.
Great. I meant to say at the beginning, this exhibit was part of your 2020 exhibits, but now you intend to keep the exhibit going a little longer, and it's interesting that you're going to highlight the Storer College, which is in Harper's Ferry, and also the work. Can you tell us how long this exhibits, or how to make an appointment to visit, or
Yes.
to call, or your website?
Of course. So originally this was meant to only be for the 2020 season. We put on new exhibits every year, but with the pandemic and things happening, we are likely going to keep this up for a year after. We think this is a very important exhibit to showcase, and we'd like people to be able to come and enjoy it. We have two other exhibits that were new to this year that we also wanted to feature women as well, one of which features 6 different prominent women from the county, and the other is showing African American church hats, and that was another one that was very much inspired by our African American Advisory Committee, who helped put us in touch with different individuals in the county who were able to lend us some church hats, and that is another one that we hope to be able to continue on for the next year. But like you said, we are open by appointment right now. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 11 to 4 by appointment. You have to call us, and you can reach us at our website, www.jeffcomuseumwv.org. That has all the information on the website, how to contact us and how to reach us, as well as our email addresses if you'd like to personally reach out or something like that.
And one of the 6 prominent women you're featuring was one of the first African American trainers housed here, who trained here at Charlestown Racetrack, and I understand you have her racing license, which I'm going to get to see here.
Correct.
Right
yes.
after this. So
Yes.
Another big feature of our county is a historic racetrack. So that's
correct.
another interesting feature. Well, we really appreciate your time and your showing us to us. We're going to post this on our website, and we hope that you can make, for those of you who can visit your website and also visit in person and see all the wonderful exhibits you've put together.
Well, thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.